All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And today, as always, I have an amazing warrior guest, Sherry Prindle, and I'll introduce her to you in a second. But first, let me remind you why you're here, or tell you why you're here if you haven't been here before. Success is a journey, it is not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life: entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, coaches, authors, you name it, any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value, and a vision that goes generations into the future. And today's guest is no exception. Sherry Prindle is an amazing warrior. She's an international event coordinator, innovative speaker, and corporate trainer who has delivered over 3,000 presentations in 50 states, 9 countries, and 3 languages. As an executive coach to small and solo business owners, and a marketing consultant, she organizes the biannual Star Marketing Summit for trainers, speakers, coaches, and authors. And she founded the Professional Coach Academy, where she has been instrumental in launching the careers of over 1,200 professional speakers and coaches. She has an MA in Business and Linguistics and speaks Japanese and Russian. That's fascinating. I'm struggling to learn Spanish these days, having lived in both countries. And her ideal day includes traveling, camping, singing, trail running, and team trivia. Sherry Prindle, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How are things today in my hometown of Kansas City?
Thank you for wearing the Chiefs shirt. Represent.
Yeah,
Love
for
it.
those
Love it.
watching the live review on our live replay on YouTube or in the Be Connected platform, yes, I am where these are. I'm sporting my colors today just for this time with Sherry. So yeah, so how I we talked a little bit. So it's like it is here in Dallas today.
Yeah.
It's nice and kind of a fall kind of. It's a little overcast here, but I hear from my family, and you confirm that we're looking. I think we're both looking at some cold tomorrow or the next day. That's going to be, I think today the high is supposed to be 82, and tomorrow the high is supposed to be 58. So, it is what it is this time. We're both in areas where all you have to do is blink and the weather changes, right?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing happening in Kansas City is that we're building new stadiums, and and there's talk of building new stadiums. So I'm kind of worried about the I-70, twin stadiums right there, right where the Chiefs and the Royals are in the same complex. Like, people for years have said they love that setup, and I'm curious about whether that's going to be in jeopardy. I know we're building the new soccer stadium, so keep your eyes open on all that development in Kansas City. That's what I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's funny you should say that because we all get, that's the reluctance for change. And again, I'm not a change for change sake, but I mean, you look at the masses, right? Even if you're very uncomfortable and you really don't like what's happening around you, um, or if you do, either way, we all tend to be a little reluctant to change. At least I know I am, and I'm a warrior. I'm always focused forward. But that being said, I don't think I think change has a degree of risk to it, to what we've grown to be comfortable with, right? So, but yeah, I heard that noise. I just want the Chiefs to keep winning. That's all. As long as the Chiefs and the Royals, win the Super Bowl and the World Series this year and next year and anytime they can, I'm excited. So anyway, well, any other exciting things going on there in Kansas City this weekend? I haven't gotten an update on what's on the agenda. I'm always looking for an excuse to travel home. So,
You just missed the best time because we get our best weather in September and October,
mhm.
and every event there is all is like crammed into those 8 weekends, and it's already kind of stopping now with the
Yeah, I
cold.
kind of know. But you got the Country Club Plaza coming up with the
The
Christmas lights and
lights.
stuff
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving. So that's exciting time if people. In fact, if I didn't have this virtual screen here, right behind me is a picture that I got uh, probably 30 years ago of the Country Club Plaza lit up at Christmas. So I'm very much a Kansas City person, even though I love Texas and I've been in Dallas now for almost 25 years. But anyway, well, enough about me, enough about the weather, enough about our shared love for Kansas City. So let's take a quick break. I want to hear, for those in the audio audience, a little more of our theme song. It's Not the Getting There from Ricky Jean Wright. And we'll be right back with Sherry Prindle and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back. And Sherry, I can't wait. As you know, I want to hear about how you got from where you started, and you get to pick where that is. So, and everybody does, and to where you are today.
So I'm a little bit different in that I don't have this career that I had and then decided to take my knowledge from my career and become a trainer or a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated, I was just a normal middle class girl, the only person in my extended family to go to college. And in college, my work study assignment was to tutor the international students that were at my school. And then we had an exchange program too. So I decided to go to Japan as a college university exchange student, and everything changed. I was never the same Midwest girl again. And all I wanted to do was not only go and travel myself, but I saw how much of a difference travel made in the way I looked at the world, how small my view was, and how scared. And I was passionate that everyone should have the chance to go somewhere completely different and meet new people, that like there would be world peace if we would just meet more people and go more places. And I can see you agree by the look on your face, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I've put 4 million miles, over 4 million miles on airlines in my corporate career. I did have a corporate career, and I've been all the places you can imagine. And what we think they think of us and what we think of them in various countries and stuff is nothing like it. I mean, even when I mean, because we don't have to go there, but filtering it through our media and everybody telling you what people think and whatever is just it's nothing like it being there. My son just got married in July in Italy, in Bologna, and what amazing place. What a beautiful place. And all of the things about Italy and, oh, they're locked down, you can't do this. It was just nonsense. It was just not true. So yes, I truly and my oldest daughter, she loves traveling. We got to travel a lot when she was young, and she studied abroad and did, so I'm totally getting what you're putting down there. That's beautiful. So anyway, so tell me, where did it go from there?
Right. So I graduated and I thought, well, I just have a degree. So do thousands of other people. What's unique about me? Well, I lived in Japan, and I really learned in that 1 year that I was there as an exchange student that I have a gift for language. Like, I learned so much Japanese in 1 year, to the point where I would order pizza, and when I told them my name and they realized I wasn't Japanese, they were surprised. My accent was very native sounding. So I went back, and you could teach English, you still can, but and make quite a little bit of money. So that was easy. You could get a tourist visa that you could renew 2 more times. So that gave you 9 or more, or a whole year or more that you could play with. And so I ended up hearing a rumor that they were looking for a young American woman to be a part of a documentary that the Japanese TV station was making. So I called the guy, I made an appointment, and the day he met me, he canceled all of his appointments with everybody else and hired me on the spot. And we traveled around the United States together. It was a Japanese camera crew and me, and we made this documentary that played primetime nationwide in Japan. It was called A Documentary of the USA, Sherry and Osamu's Quarrelsome Journey. And I traveled with a Japanese anchorman, and we experienced various things and points in the United States together. And it was about trying to show like the difference in mindset and the difference in approach, exactly the kind of thing that you were talking about, right? And so I lived in Japan for 4 more years after I graduated college. and had so much opportunity, because when you are in your own country, you're just one of multiple citizens. But when you're an expatriate, then people all automatically see you a little differently. Like, wait a minute, you had the gumption to do whatever it took for you to get to this country, right? And get your visa and do whatever you needed to do and make a living. And so all of a sudden, I just already put you in a place where there were more opportunities. So while I was in Japan, I started to get worried, because unlike a lot of countries, in Japan, Americans are really adored in almost a strange way. Like, they really like you, and when you speak Japanese, they get all excited and say, "Oh, you're so good," and they want to take you out places and be seen with you. And I noticed while I was living there, I was very young, right? I was in my early 20s, but I noticed a lot of Americans who had lived there for a long time started to believe they were as cool as the Japanese led them to believe they were. And this is strange. At the young age that I was, I saw this, but I got concerned that at this young age, I don't want to get stuck thinking I'm that cool and be disillusioned by that. I think I still have a lot of learning and growing to do before I kind of settle on this "I'm so cool" thing. And I literally said, I have a great life here. I would live in Japan the rest of my days. It was awesome, but I've got to get out of here, because I'm concerned that I'm going to start believing my own press about me. So I started telling all my friends and colleagues, "Hey, I'm leaving Japan." And they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know. I'm going to go to another country. I don't know what country it is yet, but I'm leaving." And I started quitting jobs and, getting rid of things. And they were like, "But you don't have anything lined up yet." But I believe so very much. And I don't even know like, if there's one place where I learned this. I remember part of it was a line from a poem that said, "You learn by going where you have to go." But I learned a long time ago that in order to actually make forward momentum, you can't wait for the opportunity before you move. You have to move, and then the opportunity will show itself. Like, I really figured that out. And so I just said, I know it's going to be fine. I need to start taking actions to move to the next country. And it ended up being that I found an opportunity to go to Russia. There was a Russian language school, the Pushkin Institute of Russian Language, and they had a program that included a plane ticket and 3 months of language study, and also staying in a dorm. And like, that whole package was like around $1,000. It was insanely a great deal. So I literally got on a plane and went straight from Japan to Russia, which might not resonate with anybody, but if there are two cultures that are diametrical opposites of one another, it is
Yeah, I was
those
going to say
two.
you went from one end of the spectrum to the other, as opposed to the worship of Americans, right?
Yeah, it was really weird. So when I got to Russia, one of the funniest things that happened when I first got there was I had to go buy groceries. So I go to the grocery store, and I had taken some Russian, some self-study Russian. So the way the grocery stores were set up, this is the late 80, this is the 80s. This is the late 80s. The way the grocery stores were set up is the store was gray and the sign above it said "store." And the way it was set up is you had to go, there were different sections. And so I had to go stand in line at the bread section to get my bread, and go stand in line. So you had to stand in line at these different sections and tell them what you wanted. That they wouldn't give it to you yet. They would tell you how much it cost. Then you would go to the cashier and you would tell the cashier how much you wanted to pay. And then you would come back with your receipt and show your receipt and collect your things. So you literally had to stand in line 3 times in 3 different lines to get your stuff. So I did fine going to the different places, telling them what I wanted. But when I got to the cashier, I had the amount that I needed. And I told her, 1905. She said to me, "Ya vas ni panimayu uidi atsuda." I don't understand you. Get out of here. So I go outside and understand that just a few days earlier, I had been in Japan, where all I had to do was walk into a restaurant and everyone wanted to buy me a drink, and they thought I was wonderful. And because I spoke Japanese and I was blonde, right? I went from this being this like the celebrity to I can't even buy bread, right? And I'm outside of this grocery store and I'm crying. And then
No wonder it only cost $1,000, right? It's like,
so finally I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna let this beat me. I can buy groceries for heaven's sake, right? So I go back in. There were three cashiers. I went back to the one that kicked me out, of course. And I enunciated as best I could because I could have just written it down as well, right? But I went back to the same cashier and I said the number. She let me pay, and I collected my groceries. And I remember thinking I made the right choice to leave Japan,
mhm.
because one of my greatest, you know, accomplishments was buying these groceries. And that's the kind of like humbling that I felt that I wanted to get at a young stage in my life so that I could go through the right sort of hard knocks to grow
Mhm.
the way I knew I could.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, it wasn't packaged as a zombie, but I will tell you, you just illuminated a zombie that can occur and does occur. We have a lot of millennial listeners to this podcast. And one of the things that I think, and I'm a baby boomer with five millennial children. So I'm always listening for those life lessons and the things and I think one of the things that is that we've done too much where we've brought our kids up and brought this current generation that's just voted in this last election in thinking about life is all about support. Life is all about um, being appreciated, and the fact that you recognize that that's a zombie because life isn't just about support. Life is, I mean, engineered from the cellular level up. It's about challenge and support, and we need both to grow and flourish and be not only healthy but productive human beings. And when we miss the challenge part, or we don't want to hear about the challenge, or we don't want to experience the challenge, which you obviously didn't experience in Japan and recognized that's a little bit of a fantasy here. I don't write and then you said, and you got into Russian, you realized, okay, this feels like all challenge, and you went from one to the other. Obviously, all challenge. If you see everything as challenge, you're depressed. If you see everything as support, you're living in a fantasy. And really, life is in the middle. And the fact that you put yourself in a position to experience that spectrum in life is probably why you're standing and probably the strong warrior that I perceive you to be. Anyway, that was so powerful. I just didn't want that to get past our listeners. So tell me more. Tell me more. So what else? What else? Yeah, this is fascinating. But I know we're not to today because you're still in Russia. So tell me.
Right, years ago in the 90s. So, funny that you said the thing that you just said, because I didn't have the support piece, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I actually, when I got to Russia, I was so overwhelmed that I sought out Japanese people because that was where my comfort was. So I found NHK, which is like the Japanese public television, because I had
Mm-hmm.
worked in television in Japan. And I used to go to there every day. I would go to the NHK studio and hang out with them because I always thought one of the things I thought at that time is I thought I wanted to be a journalist. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things they did was they said, oh, there's a famous Japanese photographer coming into town next week. Why don't you meet him and he'll go around with him, and that'll be a win-win because you'll get to do journalism and Moscow and you can help him get around. So it was May Day. It was the first May Day after the wall went down. The president was Yeltsin. And this photographer came into town to film what was going on May Day.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a parade. So we got up ahead of the parade, and as I was noticing the parade route, the businesses all started shutting and putting shutters up and even boarding up their businesses as the parade was going by. And I thought that was very strange until right at this corner, actually the corner where the big statue of Yuri Gagarin going into space, I think we've seen that statue at that corner at Gagarin Square, the militia started coming in riot gear. So here's the parade coming, right? And here are the militia over here. And clearly the militia are going to stop the parade right here at Gagarin Square. So when I see this happening, I'm like, wow, this is real news. I get to be a real journalist. And I thought that the parade would just stop, but no, they had anticipated this was going to happen. They put all their young, robust marchers in the front of the parade, and they just went and just beat right up against the riot police, and there was just a full-blown like riot right in front of me. I'd never seen anything like that coming from a peaceful country. So I'm taking all these pictures, and the one picture that I took was the militia ended up like taking fire hoses to the crowd, and the crowd actually like stopped a bus and set a bus on fire. It was crazy. And in the midst of all this, there was this older woman that had a shoe, and she was holding up the shoe like somebody lost their shoe. So I took that picture and was able to sell that picture for like $1,600 because it was this beautiful kind of slice of life moment in the midst of this riot.
Wow.
And after the riot was over, one more piece because it goes to something else you said, and then I want to hear your thoughts. You had said that what we think of the other countries, we have a skewed view of this. So
Right.
after it's all over, I go to the parade ending route and start talking to some older Russian guys. They gather around me and they say, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Well, you probably don't want to know where I'm from. You'll probably hate me." And they said, "Really? Where?" And I said, "The United States." And they literally looked puzzled. Like, this is the 90s when my whole frame of reference in my entire life is that Russia and the United States are arch enemies, right?
Right.
The United
Right.
Soviet Union and US are arch enemies. So these Russians look at each other puzzled, and they're like, "Americans? Do we have any problem with Americans?" No. They go, "The Germans, we hate the Germans, and the French, everybody hates the French, but we don't dislike the Americans at all." And then here's what they said next. They said, this is older Communist Party members in Moscow say to me, "Unless you didn't buy into all that evil empire stuff that was fed to you guys as like propaganda, did you?" And then at this moment, it really hits me. My whole school career, they told me the Russians try to brainwash their population. They give propaganda campaigns to their population. And I remember thinking, oh, that's horrible and that's terrible. And that's when it hit me. We do propaganda as well. And the difference is they don't buy it, but we did. Oh my gosh.
Well, the interesting thing is we is always I think that we're dealing with that right now. I mean, we learn, right? I took one of the most valuable courses I took in college, and I have a went to Wharton. I have a business degree. I mean, but the most that was a course called Persuasion and Attitude Change, and it was all about how to condition your audience, your community, and it was one of those courses. I was in an engineering and management school, so it wasn't like the core study, right? And it was probably the most valuable thing because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so once you've seen that the narrative that you're being fed, um, I would submit that they probably were getting, I mean, they were getting propaganda as well. And the degree to which we allow our zombie mind to be influenced by that versus the one where we actually engage our frontal lobe and think about it and say, does this match what I'm seeing? See, you again had an opportunity there that many people don't, is you were there and you saw, yeah, maybe the government is that way, maybe the people that are leading it, but the real people, the people on the ground, are just like me. They are people who are trying to feed their family, trying to take care and have opportunities, trying to thrive, trying to have impact in their own way, trying to have a meaningful life. You can't put everybody in a box. And then when you start not allowing us to do what we're doing here today, right? To share, to talk, to argue, you start to, cut that out of the thing, then all of a sudden you're easy for the zombie masters to control, right? It's not unique, as you point out, and I agree with you, by the way. It's absolutely not unique to any country. Some more than others. Some are better at it than others. Um, you know, but yeah, beautiful. That's another great zombie lesson there. Just overcoming. So what else? So we're not to today, so you're still in Russia. So I can't get you out of Russia. You must like Russia. You're in Japan, now you're in Russia. So tell me, what else?
So my biggest zombie is probably what happened when my father died, and I'm an only child. So I came back to the
Mm.
United States to hang out with my mom, and my mom said, we've always supported you. I support you in anything you do. She said, but I've got to say, it never occurred to me that you would want to live in another country. And it would be nice if you didn't live in another country. And I thought, oh, live in the United States. Because I was going to go to China next. I was like, okay, I guess I could do that. Right.
I
But when
guess
I
I
got
could come back home. Yeah.
but when I got back to the United States, then I had it that I wasn't special anymore. Remember that thing I told you about when you're
Mhm.
an expatriate, right? So now all of a sudden I'm just this normal middle class girl again who's got literally nothing unique and special about me. And all I'm doing is just like going to the newspaper one ads trying to get a job. I'm like, I have this exciting life, and what am I supposed to do back here in the United States where I'm not special? Like I was really, really caught. And so I decided to go to graduate school instead because the job prospects were not very good.
Mhm.
And after I got my MBA, I went back out on the job market, and it was the same, except they were offering me a little more money, but nothing sounded interesting and exciting. And I was like, listen, if I've come this far, I'm an only child. I never married. I never had kids. I had made a choice that I wanted to live my life as a big adventurer. So
Uh-huh.
if I have to do it in the United States, I'm not going to like only adventure on the weekends and the evenings and do a job during the day, right? I'm just not. And so I don't need a lot of money, whatever it is, I'm not going to settle for something. And so I saw that Fred Pryor Seminars, a big seminar company, was auditioning people to be seminar leaders. And I've got to say, I don't think I'd ever been to a seminar. I didn't even quite know what that was, but I knew I was always a good speaker, that every job I had ever had involved speaking. I did radio, I did television. So I auditioned. And when I taught my first seminar, it was like I heard click, like this was the thing for me. It was
Mm.
like, I get to speak, I get to meet people, but instead of like a journalist asking them the question they don't want to answer, or like a radio personality where we had to talk about pop culture, which I wasn't interested in, I got to speak about things that I was interested in and that I cared about, and I got to help them with things that they cared about. And I figured out my passion, which I know is in the next segment.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear about that. But that is also so brilliant because it actually connects to one of the things you said earlier on is that, and by the way, I'm listening to you very closely. I'm listening probably closer than any guy usually listens to a woman. So, because I'm trying to hear what you're saying. But the thing is, the thing that occurs to me is it ties back to what you said, and that is you had to be in motion to see what it was that you really wanted to do. We often wait for the opportunity to show up. And as I often say, you can't steer a parked car. So you don't know which way to go. And maybe it's in reverse, or maybe it's forward, or maybe it's right or left. And you experienced it not because it was necessarily intention, but one intention that as warriors we always have to deploy as a warrior move as opposed to a zombie move is keep moving forward, keep in motion. And you illustrated that really with that, you know the the opportunity that you saw that you didn't even expect, right? And that's what happens.
Well, and not settling for the zombie job because again,
Hmm.
I was afraid. I could everybody had a dream. Most
Right.
people got a job and the income was nice and they settled into that. Nothing wrong with that, but I just like I did leaving Japan, I preemptively said, and even though I'm not going to make a lot of money working, as at a restaurant or doing some in between job, I'm not going to take a full-time job until I'm not going to. I need to not settle, you know, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant. As I always say, no growth occurs within your comfort zone, and it's very easy to get comfortable in even discomfort at times, but get comfortable and then say, okay, I can survive here. And that's what happens, in many of our lives. And warriors strive to break out of that as they overcome those zombies. Well, let's do this. I want to get into, you mentioned the magic word, which is today. So I really want to take a quick break for the audio audience. You'll hear a little more of our theme song, It's Not the Getting There by Ricky Jean Wright. And then we'll be right back with Sherry Prindle. We'll hear about why she's doing what she's doing today and the value she provides and the impact she's looking for. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Sherry Prindle and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, Sherry, we are back and fascinating, just fascinating. Gosh, I had no idea. There's so many things, so many parallels. I'm always amazed at how God, the universe, however you want to label it, is tends to line us up with people that are also on a journey and people we don't even know. But that's one of the reasons why I network. That's one of the reasons why warriors need to continue to realize that it's a team sport and there's people that'll show up if you just keep moving that are on the same path. They might not be on exactly the same path, but they're aligned with you very closely. And I sense that with you. So share with me, what are you doing today and why?
So I did that Fred Prayer seminars thing for a super long time because it was fun and I got to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to where I would feel stuck, then I could always learn a new topic because they had hundreds of topics. So instead of like a trainer who would specialize in one topic, I would say, okay, I'm ready to teach this. And by the end, I literally taught every topic in their category, every topic in every category. So I literally taught HR, I taught Microsoft Excel, I taught all the different topics and became the jack of all trainings. And I truly believe I am an expert in all the 200-ish topics that I teach because I'm conscientious. And first of all, you study to get ready to teach it. And then when you train, the audiences give you examples, ask you questions. You end up really learning those things, right?
Sure.
So I have to say, I do think I got a little zombified in the Fred Prayer seminars because it was so fun to travel that it was like, you're very underpaid. You're very under your talent level when you're continuing with that, but it was just so fun that I just kept going. So now I think that the big epiphany that I needed to stop that was when I went to a James Malinchak big money speaker seminar. He used to do these big things in LA with all these people that wanted to be big money speakers, and it was like the third one of his things that I had been to. And he had guests up on his stage, and at that particular one, 5 of the guests that were on his stage that day were people that I had trained. Literally, one of them literally was on the stage, Travis Brown, and he said, "Oh, the person that trained me to be a speaker is here in the audience today. Sherry Prindle's here." And that's when I realized, okay, Sherry, it's about time you stop being in the audience at an event like this and start putting on events like this, or at least being on stage at events like this. So there was a zombie there. It took me a while to break out. It was because I love the adventure. So here's, I ended up saying, I'm not going to make a compromise on what I do for a living. I'm going to do what I love. To those who that's not what they did, you chose family, you chose, stability, you chose security, all those great choices. No choice is better. Then I always encourage people, then find your passion in the non-work. And that's really what I was doing, right? Staying with Fred Prayer that long. But where I am now is I got certified as a gamification master craftsman. And I really believe I would like to transform the training industry because I think most people agree that the way training is done now is really ineffective. You put a bunch of people in a room and blah, 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 and then they leave. And being a part of that was fun. And I'm dynamic and I bring my own take on that. And I like to feel that, I know, having taught almost 4,000 presentations by now, that's like what the 10,000 hours times 4 or more, right?
Right.
That I like to feel like, yeah, I'm really at the top of a skill level in that industry, but I just feel like it needs to be transformed. So I would really like to just get more real. Like, for example, nowadays that people are doing things virtually, virtual meetings, remote trainings. I went and taught a class to train the trainer. And their biggest concern was, how do I get people not to multitask and to pay attention during my meeting or during my training? And I said to them, have you ever considered, why is it so important that they not multitask and pay attention? Why is it so important that if you're leading a meeting and only two topics in the meeting matter to those people, what's wrong with them getting some work done, doing things that matter to them, and then only paying attention during those two segments that matter to them. So as an example of transforming the industry, my question to everybody out there, if you lead a meeting, if you lead a training, if you do these types of things, what is it that we need to do to make our meetings and trainings more friendly to the people that are taking them? So what if I put out an agenda for the meeting with times on it that said we're going to talk about this topic from this time to this time? And what if during my meeting I said, okay, coming up in about 3 minutes, we're going to start the topic on this. So those of you who need to be here for that, wrap up what you're doing so you can come in. Maybe I need to make my trainings and my meetings more audience friendly. Maybe I need to adapt, because in the end, what I think is happening in organizations is we're getting to a place where we're not pretending the humans are not humans. We're
Mhm.
not saying, okay, you come through the door at work and you have to leave your humanity behind and become this worker bee that all the normal things that humans experience, you can't experience, or we have to pretend you don't. We've come to a place where people are able to say, I'd rather work from home because I'm able to pick up my child from school, and I'd rather work from home because I can, pick off hours. And, wellness is important and work-life balance is important. We're coming to a place of that. So I feel like in the training and the coaching and the meetings and leadership world, we need to apply that to the way we bring what we bring to the people.
Yeah, and I love that. I so it's funny because I don't make any secret of it, although I don't beat people over the head of it. But I'm a Christian, and actually I've been in after I retired, I was in ministry for a few years, and that was one of the epiphanies, if you will, that churches. The ones that are still thriving and successful have come to know is you have to meet people where they're at. You have to enable them. I mean, even through the zombie apocalypse or the pandemic, as I call it, there's a lot of change. People have reached more people and had more impact because we made the changes in this my networking group. We couldn't meet in person for a while, right? So you had to figure out how to do that and bring it to the people, because you saying, okay, I'm here, come here, come here. This is what I'm going to do, like it or leave. That doesn't work. It doesn't have the impact, right? So helping, I think it's brilliant. I love so is that what you're focused on today, is working with um, those kind of events? I mean, so tell me a little bit about the value. You obviously have a lot of value. I love your experience, I love your life lessons, I love your journey. But what is it about all that you're bringing to the market today as far as your unique value? I kind of know what it is, but I want to hear you say it. And then what kind of impact are you hoping to have?
So I have a coach training school, the Professional Coach Academy. So I train life coaches and executive coaches. So
Mhm.
for one, I'm training coaches to be more effective in coaching. That coaching, just like we said in training, needs to meet people where they are and be about, taking their ideas and supporting them in achieving what they want to achieve. So that's been something I've been doing since 2008.
Wow.
And then I have a lot of training, I train the trainer type things, because I have trained so many trainers. I actually trained all the Fred Pryor seminar leaders for 10 years, and
Wow.
then started putting on my own sort of train the trainer workshops. So now I'm teaching gamification, and with my own clients, I actually have a unique training approach. I actually bring the audience in, and my superpower is that I am really good at making connections. So if somebody says our organization is struggling with this, my brain instantly goes, oh, well, they must be having this. I can get all the causality. I'm really
Mhm.
good at kind of seeing the causality of things, and then relating it to training, like what kind of training needs to happen at what level. So what I'm doing now is it's a three-pronged training approach where we come in, I have a discussion with people and they tell me what's going on. And I make this huge mind map as I go where I kind of see what's going on. And then I take a day, or at least an afternoon, and I map that out and say, okay, this is the training they need. And then the next day they come in and we do a training. And instead of it being an out of the box training on how to manage time, then it's actually, I know what their issues are. I know specific scenarios, and I've put together a customized training that is tailored to those particular things. And then, of course, with the coaching, the third prong is the follow up coaching that helps bring it forward. So
Wow. So Sherry, that really it really speaks to me on a couple levels, but one of them is, you said that you were talking about the value of just doing a canned presentation to an audience and having them do that. And there's so much information out there in the Be Connected platform. We have over $50,000 worth of programs that are available to advanced members, and that's beautiful. But where I found that the really power comes is the fact that those same speakers slash program developers are on the platform, and they can then in turn customize the learning experience. That's also why I do the mastermind that you participated in last Friday and led, is that it's not just the content, it's I want to engage the audience in moving to apply the things that we're teaching, because nothing you can the funny thing is, as you know, you were on the mastermind. The thing that I learned, early on is, people go, that was really great, I was really inspired by that, or I really liked the way she presented that. And I said, okay. And then a few weeks later, they'd be on another one. That was great. I hear, and really love the way she presented, or he presented that, or what, it was every week. I've been doing this since 2015, right? With every week doing this. And all of a sudden I came to the kind of the same epiphany, or the same place you were thinking, is that just knowing it, or, relating to the material, they already knew it, but they weren't doing it. So what are you doing with it? How is that impacting your world? So that sounds like impact. So what's your thoughts there? What kind of impact do you really want to have as you begin to to roll out your program of helping trainers, speakers,
Coaches and authors, yes.
coaches and authors, right?
So, in the end, what I really would love to see happen is, I feel like during what you call the zombie apocalypse, people got more real, as I
Mm-hmm.
said. And so I would love to see us be more real about training. So training works better when it's, for example, just in time. So right where you need the answer is there. So people are doing that with like learning management systems and micro learning, right?
Right.
Training is really effective when, like you said, with your masterminds, people actually have input in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training is effective when it's interesting and engaging. So stuff that you just have to tell them and they have to learn, gamifying that in a way that makes it interesting. And gamification doesn't have to be some kind of an app or a video game. You can gamify things in a very analog format as well. But what that really does is it basically matches like what people's needs and motivations, right, with organizations' needs and motivations. And it's about kind of matching those up here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a new mindset. It's a new way of looking at training and learning and growth. And I'm going to say it pervades like succession planning, recruiting, all the different aspects of working with people. And we kind of have to do that because now we've got this, we're short staffed. It's not like all of a sudden we lost a huge percentage of the working population. It really is that we lost a certain percentage of the working population in a different way, right? Not to the zombie brain eating, but to
Yeah. No, you're right. And I mean, the thing is, it is what we lost is a way to, as they say, and again, I lived in corporate world for a long time, but it's true even in entrepreneurs, small business owners, bringing people into your community or your network. It's the onboarding process. It's the, okay, how do I know what I need to know in this environment, which is very hybrid today. If you don't think it's hybrid, even if you think that the world isn't going forward in a virtual and physical, or analog and digital, however you want to define it, right? You're living in a fantasy. I don't care whether you're all analog or all digital or somewhere in between. It is in between. And that's why in-person networking is where we started, and then now, and we did lunch and learns. You remember those, teaching you, bringing in trainers, teachers to help you learn something. Went and then it gradually became, and then bam, everything had to be done online. And the beautiful thing is we can bring in more information, more people, and make it more convenient for people to learn, but it still has to have to use your term, the gamification, the thing that kind of inspires you to apply it. I love the thing you said about just in time, because mainly it appeals to me, because I was just talking to somebody, I think it was actually Ricky Jean Wright, actually the theme songwriter, and I said, yeah, I'm not good at reading manuals, and I don't like really watching a YouTube video to learn how to do stuff. And that's why I'm exercising this platform, and I'm learning things as I need to know them. But once I do it, I know how to do it again. And that's the brilliance of just-in-time learning. You can't just blow it through in a week and have people walk away and be fully functional, fully onboarded, right? It's a process. It's a journey every day, as the theme song says. Is that, do you kind of relate to that? Is that kind of where you're hoping to be?
Absolutely. And I have a quote. There's an organization called Great Place to Work, and they're the one that puts out all those employee engagement surveys and things. And the CEO, Michael C. Bush, said, going forward, place shouldn't matter, but flexibility should. He said, I don't think of the hybrid future as one of physical space. I think of it as really caring for people and giving them the flexibility that's needed to have a high sense of well-being. And I'm going to add, purpose and belonging and passion.
Well, that's brilliant. And there's so much we can talk about. We may have to do a special warrior versus zombie just talking about that, because you really hit on one of my current hot buttons, if you will. So I truly love that. And so, but we are going to have to land the plane for this segment and move into what I call the land the plane segment. So get ready. I'm going to ask you what do you want us to take away from this. But let's first take a quick break. Here, the final break of our theme song, It's Not the Getting There by Ricky Jean Wright. And we'll be back with Sherry Prindle and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we are back. And Sherry, I didn't know where we were going to go with all this when we started, and thought we could talk more about the Chiefs or something else. But you've given me a whole lot of things myself to think about as we go forward, and who knows where our journeys will align even closer down the road. So tell me, if we take away anything from this podcast, this discussion, your journey, what would you want us to take away?
So one is I think it's really about, and I haven't even said this not once, but it's listen to your body. Because when I think of all the stories I've told you, it's because I do believe that there's a deeper, more innate wisdom and connection to kind of the collective unconscious that we can tap into. And so when I was in Japan and I saw, ooh, I'm really being treated very specially here, somehow it didn't feel good. I'm like, why would I be having such a happy, wonderful time and not feeling good? Listen to your body, because it kind of tells you. And that's when I was like, okay, why am I not feeling good? Let me explore this. Oh, I could get really spoiled, right? So now let me move myself into a challenge. When I'm into a challenge, it's fascinating because externally I'm feeling some pressure, I'm feeling some discomfort, but that place inside feels good,
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
ooh, I'm all aligned, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that you just, instead of relying on, and what you said about millennials is really important here, instead of relying on external comfort as your indicator of whether you're in a good place or not, check in with your internal comfort. And sometimes in the midst of external discomfort is when you have some of the best internal comfort, right? And then the other theme I think of our talk has been this idea of questioning your beliefs, and that you listen to your body as well. That the minute somebody says something and I get riled up about it and I feel angry about it, that is a clear indication that I have some kind of an unexamined belief in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, boom, the minute I get upset or angry about something, rather than thinking, I strongly believe this thing, that's what that anger means. No, it doesn't. That anger means that I have something that I'm not willing to explore here. So, what does it
Mm.
mean? It means that I have a belief that maybe I inherited, or maybe, I heard in a certain way. I need to stop and go, and be really open to, there's probably something in what they're saying that I do believe, or I need to at least listen to, or I need to at least consider. So, believe it or not, all those stories kind of get tied together in this one idea of listen to your body. And when you have those internal feelings, then to me, listening to those and going and just taking a moment and kind of examining, like, where am I? Where do I want to go? What if I took this road? What if I took this road? Kind of taking a look at some options. You can even check your feelings as you look at the different options. And a lot of times that will give you that guidance to be able to learn by going where you have to go, learn by doing what you have to do.
Beautiful. Wow. Um, yeah, you didn't really tie it together, but the interesting thing is we're very aligned in one thing. In fifth grade, I was diagnosed with high off the charts abstract conceptualization. And so my superpower is what I call connecting the dots. So it's interesting that we're both sitting here as dot connectors thinking of that the same thing, right? But yes, I mean, you're so right. I mean, the whole thing is not letting our millennials be challenged and be upset, and I'm encouraging them not to ask questions of themselves as to why, uh, can truly stunt the growth of those people as well as our future. And so censoring or trying to bound those kind of discussions to enable us to exercise the challenge versus support, which you've said in your story and everything else, is one of the things that, and paying attention to your body. You said body. I also am there with the health of body, mind. We're body, mind, and spirit, and we sense the areas where we are, and if we listen to what it is, what our body is telling us, what our eyes are seeing, what our ears are hearing, what our body is feeling, or our mind is experiencing, and then figure out the root cause of that and begin to unpack that and figure out incrementally, not be overwhelmed with it, but incrementally understand how to address that, we're going to grow and we're going to be more powerful and we're going to be more productive. But we all seek this, let's signal and say, okay, this is safe, and let's, but it's not the signal, it's the do. It's what are you doing, not what are you signaling to do. So anyway, we could go on and on and on. So how do we, I know you're on the Be Connected platform, and I know that people are, and with your kind of impact and audience, are ramping up into that, and things are, it's a beautiful place to be found. But how else do we stay in touch with you, Sherry?
So
What other ways?
fortunately, there aren't a lot of other Sherry Prindles who are trying to be found. So if
Okay.
you, on every social media platform, I'm, Sherry Prindle, at Sherry Prindle, pound Sherry Prindle, all of that. And then, of course, I have sherryprindle.com. My coach certification is professionalcoachacademy.com. But the biggest thing you might be interested in is my live event that I do twice a year called the Star Marketing Summit, starmarketingsummit.com. I do
Okay.
it twice a year, January and July. January 7th and 8th, 2023 is the next one. And it's where we get together and really kind of do what we're doing here, kind of figure out exactly what you said. Where am I in the world? Where do I want to be? What impact do I want to have? And how can we help each other do the right actions to, get some velocity and going there.
Beautiful. Well, I'm definitely going to get some more information, and I assume you'll. I think we may have sent it to me, but send me the links and stuff in the show notes where people can find all these things. I like people post show, and then this will be on the YouTube channel. It'll be on the Be Connected channel. It'll be the audio audience will be there, and I'll put it in the show notes so that we can find you. And yeah, this is so brilliant. I run my life by divine appointment, so I always love these very short time, okay, I can do this time. So I appreciate you being responsive. I'm very thankful. So thank you for serving us today.
Thank
And,
you. It's been a pleasure.
yeah, and we had a little bit of wonkiness here, as I say, but that's all right. It's warriors power through, and we're gonna. This is gonna be. This is a great. This is a great. Going to be a great episode. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from it, and so well, we're going to have to land the plane as much as I hate to. And we'll be back next Thursday for another episode 99. We're getting close to that 100, that magical 100 that some of you are aware that I'm striving to get to. So this will be right on the top of the heap here. So I'd encourage you to listen to this and reach out to Sherry and come back and visit us next time on Warrior versus Zombie. We'll hear the outro of our theme song, It's Not the Getting There by Ricky Jean Wright. All right, we're done.